My unhinged wife thinks that I fathered my sister's son and demands that I take a paternity test for my nephew, so I agreed to take the test but under certain conditions. My wife and I have been married for 10 years and together for 14. We are child-free. I also have a nephew who's currently 13, and I'm not going to lie, he looks a lot like me and has many of the same facial features. I am really proud of him, and we have a close bond. I have played a father-like role in his life since he was a kid. He has a deadbeat father, and my sister divorced him long ago. A couple of my family members have commented on how my nephew looks a lot like me, and while I initially thought it was wholesome, my wife, for some reason, became very insecure and started getting doubts. She was questioning why I needed to play such a prominent role in my nephew's life, why my nephew had autism, etc. The insinuations just became weird and made me uncomfortable. I agree that my sister has played some part in my wife's insecurities because of her dry humor. During family gatherings, my sister often jokes about how wholesome it is that her son looks like me, and that she couldn't be happier. It's obviously a joke, but I spoke to my sister and asked if she could tone it down a bit because it was making my wife a bit crazy. However, last night, my wife asked if I could take a paternity test just for her peace of mind. That's when I finally snapped and called her crazy, and marrying her was the biggest mistake of my life. I immediately regretted saying it because I meant none of it. My wife is the love of my life. But my wife got quiet and started crying shortly after, and I had to console her. Update. The gist of it is that I've agreed to take the test but under certain conditions. I understand my wife is being paranoid and delusional, but I want to take the test just to ease whatever irrational fears she has. Sometimes these fears have no logic, and I too have had some irrational fears before, and there was no logic in them. I spoke to my sister about it today, and she was pretty angry at my wife. However, my sister and I discussed it at length, and she agreed to the test under certain conditions. I spoke to my wife after and told her I would take the test under some conditions. My wife was pleased that I had agreed to take the test, and I then told her the conditions. The first condition was that she had to stop these insinuations immediately. My wife immediately agreed to it. The second condition was that there would be no more arguments on me spending time with my sister and nephew. My wife and I have argued over the years, and she asks why I spend so much time at their house. My wife agreed to the condition, although she took some time to think about it. The third and final condition was that I had liberty to go on vacations with my sister and my nephew without my wife being there. I told my wife up front that my sister doesn't want her to come on these vacations anymore. My wife was a bit more hesitant on this, but she ultimately agreed to it. Update 2. The results did come back as expected. However, my wife went back on her word and asked if I could revert the conditions, and I just told her straight up that I would look into divorce if she kept going on like this. My wife then freaked out and started crying and asked why I preferred my sister more. She asked if it was because she was unable to give me a baby, and I had to calm her down and tell her I was obviously not going to divorce her but just to relax. I told her to keep a cool head and think rationally, and that she had to accept sooner rather than later that my sister and nephew would always be my family. I also told her to look into individual therapy, as many people in my last post recommended. My wife was surprisingly very open to it, and she accepted she was being irrational, but she was just afraid of losing me. So, anyway, that's my final update. I think we are making good progress, and therapy should hopefully resolve whatever issues my wife is going through.